to your point about when did I have that light bulb moment, it was actually in 2018 when I believe the NBA All-Star was in Charlotte. A good friend of mine who's actually, he lives in New York. I went to school with him at Radford. His name is Jeff Wallace. He was at Bleacher Report at the time. I'm sure he won't mind me telling the story. And I actually ran into him at this, I want to say it was like a Nike mixer event that he was working. And I hadn't seen him since college. So it's probably been like 5 or 6 years at that point. And I'm like, yo, this is what you do for like a living? Like, I didn't even understand what he did, but I know he's a producer, he's a creative, but he basically kind of helped put that event together and kind of capture some of the content. And I was fortunate enough to connect with someone else that invited me to this Jordan mixer. It was like I don't think it was Jordan Puma, but it was like Jordan and another brand of a mixer. And it's literally all of these sports executives, industry people, and they're all like just kind of not bragging, but they're so passionate and so happy to talk about their job. And when they get to me, they're like, yo, what do you do? I'm like, oh, I'm a consultant at this bank. They're like, do you like it? I'm like, no, it just pays the bills. And they're like, why do you do it? And I'm like, I don't know. But like, I didn't say it like
they literally ask you, like, they literally ask you, then why are you doing it?
Exactly. And I didn't say I don't know at that time, but I was like, I went to school for this, and I worked hard to get this certification. But internally, I was like, yeah, like, why am I doing something that I don't want to do? I don't have to do just because it's making decent money and I went to school for it.
Hey, welcome to another episode of The Couch with Rob Fields. I'm your host, Rob Fields, and ladies and gentlemen, we have a special episode today. We have a brother, a former teammate, and a current mover and shaker all around the world. He's big time. All right, ladies and gentlemen, give big hand claps to Layden Williams. Yeah. What's up, my brother?
What's up? I definitely owe you a PayPal or Venmo. That's the best intro I had in a minute, so I appreciate that.
Cha-ching. That's what I'm talking about, bro. That's what we here for, man. We gotta give love. Listen, man, how you doing today?
I'm doing all right. It's a Saturday, alive and well, no complaints. So I'm happy to be here, happy to chop it up. I know it's been a minute, so long overdue.
Man, this has been in the works for a long time. You know, I've been kind of poking and prodding you to come on to the show, but you've been present in other ways. Let's say it like that. You've been present, showing love, and really helping me kind of figure this thing out. You know, so I want to thank you for that. You know, it's helped a lot. I'll say that.
Of course.
So today is my opportunity to really get after it, all right, and to kind of get into your story and also share it with other people, because it is a pretty wild one when you kind of break down the details. So we'll start here. I said in the intro that you're a former teammate, right?
Yep.
I can honestly say the first time that I met you at Catawba, at Catawba College.
There we go.
I had no idea how to read you.
Yeah.
I had no idea. And you know, when you come in as a freshman, you're almost in survival mode. Mm-hmm. Did you feel that when you came on the campus, or were you just like, hey, I'm here, baby? Like, what was that?
I think at that time, honestly, I was probably just happy to be there. I mean, I had flirted with a few other schools because I really had the D1 bug, and as I'm sure we'll get to later on in the conversation, where I wanted to go to like a mid-major, possibly a high major and walk on, but definitely wanted to say I held it down to D1 level. But at the end of the day, I was able to kind of connect with the coaches, some of the players at Catawba. Had great 4 years there. But when I first got to campus, coming from a really small town, just being a little, I guess, kind of sheltered, for lack of better words, I was just ready to like hit the ground running. So whatever was in front of me, I was looking forward to do it. Whoever was on the team, I was looking forward to making sure I'm like working hard or outworking them at some point. But I think I was just like bright eyes, honestly, when I hit campus.
I couldn't really feel that on you, bro. I'll be honest with you. It felt like, what's that?
My poker face is 10 out of 10. So I'm never going to tell you that I'm sweating, but internally I'm probably butterflies in my stomach, anxiety going crazy. But yeah, internally I'm like, all right, like, how am I going to figure this out? All these dudes is nice from their respective high schools, but yeah, that's kind of where my mind was at.
Yeah, I couldn't read it. And the funny thing about you and I, man, is we had a lot of time together. Me driving the guys around, playing video games, listening to music, But you always had this special knack to just always stay on your stuff. All right, like you were always on point. You know, even though we did the stuff that the young guys do, and I want to give you props on this, man. I had Coach Baker on the episode, right? And we love Coach Baker,
Yep.
and I made a sacrifice on the team to become a six man, but you also made a big sacrifice for our team, which might sometimes go unnoticed. Like you came in as a 6'5" point guard, you know, and it's something that I hadn't seen in person before. And then you made a change to become a defensive stopper, a great cutter. You just filled in. You were like a Swiss Army knife. What was it difficult to make that adjustment, or did you feel like you had to?
Yeah, that's a great question. I don't know if anyone's ever actually asked me that, but I think at the end of the day, like I said, when I got to campus and I did an assessment of the team, I saw that obviously you were a scorer, you were a threat from anywhere on the court. Saw that Tonio was clearly a scorer, clearly was able to kind of get his own shot off. Saw that Donald had lots of potential that wasn't kind of tapped into just yet. So he was a slasher. He could pretty much dunk on anyone. I was like, all right, I got to figure out like what's going to be my role and how I'm going to get more minutes. Because like I said, candidly, coming in as a freshman and only playing 7 or 8 minutes, I started varsity for 4 years in high school. So I'm used to being the man like pretty much wherever I go. And obviously that wasn't the case when I got to Catawba. Shout out to BG for those early days. But yeah, I think I had just like a heart to heart moment with Coach Bakes and also Coach Marv, where they were like, yo, Zell, obviously you're very talented, you're very athletic, but you might be better served as like an off guard where you can kind of serve as a defensive stopper, help setting up teammates and just kind of getting the job done by any means necessary. And that actually allowed me to go from those 7 to 8 minutes freshman year to being a 3-year starter.
Man, I tell you, dude, like we had some success at Catawba, but I don't think it would have played out in the same way that it did if you hadn't made the decision just to buy in.
Yep.
And maybe it would have been different for us had we been at school now,
Mm-hmm.
because you can just bounce if it's not right. And I also spoke to Coach Baker about that as well. Even Coach Baker was like, "You guys, you 5 guys were just so good that I may have not kept you guys for 4 years."
Yeah.
You know, just the way that the climate is now.
For sure.
You know, so yeah, when you made that decision, I was just like, man, this dude, I don't even know if you even understood it at the time, but it was so important for our team, and I think your decision to make that choice was big for us. Did you ever look back on college and say, I could have did more? Or did you feel like you did everything that you gave it everything that you could at that period of time in terms of basketball? I mean,
Yeah, in terms of basketball, definitely a good question. Also, I wanted to kind of rewind a bit. Also, throwing Damo in the mix, who's literally Dame Lillard before Dame Lillard. I mean, he could literally pull up from half court and knock down a 3. So I'm like, all right, I got to weigh my odds. If he's an actual true point guard, about 5'10", 5'11", 6 foot, and like I said, I'm a slasher, and I'm obviously a little bit taller, what's going to be like my staple? What's going to be my value add to the team? That's when I kind of had that moment. I was like, all right, like if you want to play, you want to get minutes here, you're going to have to adjust your game. So definitely wanted to shout out Damo, not to skip him over. But back to your question about like
can I cut you off real quick?
Yeah, go ahead.
You remember when Damo first came? They said, "Hey, we bringing this kid from Concord, from Cannon School, and you know we're not from Charlotte, so we were like Cannon, like yeah, okay."
Exactly.
And then Damo
like,
walks
whatever,
in.
Coach. Like we hear you. It's probably Wednesday. We're going to bench warmers at some point, so we actually don't care. But yeah, when he came in there, probably didn't even stretch. I think the first possession he pulled from half court, nothing but net. Right. He might be a problem. So he might be. So.
Bro, Damo pulled it from half court. I said, "Oh my God, bro, who is this?"
Exactly. Put us in the mix.
Oh my God. And he kept doing it. It wasn't even no fluff. Like he was coming for everything, bro. Like he was really out there trying to knock dudes off. Like, I want show minutes. He was pulling from half. And that wasn't even a thing at that time.
Exactly. So that was fun.
Oh my God. Yeah, sorry to cut you off, man, but I had to ask you about that. If you remember that day, I remember it vividly, man.
Of course. Of course.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah, but to get back to your question about there's more I could have done, I feel like I got to a point where once I kind of realized my established role, I kind of flirted with the idea of possibly playing overseas. But at the end of the day, I was just like, I love basketball, but I want to like enjoy life. I want to have balance. I want to be able to go out with my friends. I want to go home when I want to. So yeah, I'm sure I could have spent more time in the gym, working on free throws, working on floaters, like Lynn used to say, RP Lynn. But I think at the end of the day, in
Yeah.
terms of like going hard and conditioning, working out with the team, being focused when it's time to be focused, I definitely gave it my all. Were there lapses where I could have probably went a little bit harder or put in more time in the off season? For sure. But I mean, who wouldn't say that?
Yeah. And to make a quick pivot, right? So we're talking about Catawba.
Yep.
Our relationship at Catawba it was really good. We were actually suite mates
Yep.
at one point, and we laughed a lot. We had a lot of great times. But I don't remember us ever talking about the future.
Hmm.
I don't ever like out of all of those times you walk through the bathroom, we come to each other. We had adjoining bathrooms, right? I never remember us in that 4 year span talking about what the future looked like and what we wanted to do. What were some of the aspirations that you had in college, or what like, or were you just kind of taking it how it came? Like what was going on at that time?
Yeah, and it's funny you say that because obviously we'll get to this later in the conversation. When I was at Catawba, obviously I'm a student athlete, but to me I was just an athlete. Like I'm there to play basketball. I'm trying to get championships. I want to get some jewelry. I want to get some minutes. I want to throw out T-shirts to the fans when you're a starter, all that good stuff. So like the grades, the aspirations, the career, that wasn't really a focal point. I honestly didn't even think about like what the next step would look like, probably until after senior season, when I was just like, all right, like what am I about to do next? Like, am I going to try to go out and go overseas? Am I going to do the grad school thing? I wasn't really sure of a profession. I had majored in accounting and literally coasted through most of those classes just because I knew how to do the bare minimum, but do enough to get by, but to have decent grades. So that's kind of where my mindset was. I knew I wanted to be successful, but I wasn't sure exactly which way to go. And just coming from a small town, I always knew that finance was like almost like a safety net because it's good job security, it's decent pay, and it'll allow you to live in like a bigger city than my hometown, which is something I always kind of had dreams of doing. So that was kind of like my mindset. But while I was there, I probably did not go to career services one time. I probably didn't ask the professor for actual reference. Probably not at all. Like I said, I was literally focused on basketball, having a good time, and making the most of
Mm.
undergrad.
Yeah, I kind of feel the same way, and I also feel like, dang man, like did we really have those resources on campus? And I think we did,
Yeah,
but for me, I wouldn't say I was ignorant to the future, but we were just so locked in.
yeah, for sure.
And I think success has a lot to do with that too, because we were doing well. Maybe if our team sucked, we would have focused a little bit more on
Exactly.
internships and
Yeah,
the future, because the writing is on the wall. But when you're successful, it's just like, well, maybe this can turn into something.
of course, of course.
Let me ask you this, all right, and this might be kind of run of the mill. If you could characterize the period from us graduating Catawba to your first full-time job, what was that period like? If you could do it in if you could do it in 5 words, what would that be?
Not even trying to be funny or downplay it, but I think the phrase I would use would be, "I guess this is cool." Like I didn't really have,
Nice.
like I said, I majored in accounting just because by happenstance, in my brother's graduation, we had a cookout at my older cousin, who I call my uncle, his house, and he had a really nice house, 2 cars in the driveway, 3-car garage, and I was like, "What does Uncle Reggie do?" Well, it's actually Little Reggie. I was like, "What does Little Reggie do?" And my dad's like, "Oh, he's an accountant." I remember I was in 11th grade. I had no idea what an accountant was. My dad was like, "You should probably go ask him what that actually means." And he was like, basically, you're looking at financial statements to make sure that people are tracking their financial documents and what have you. And he was like, it could be a pretty lucrative career. Didn't even know what lucrative meant at the time either. So I went back to the dictionary, looked up accountant and lucrative. And I was like, all right, when I get to Catawba, because I think I had already made my decision at that point, I was like, I'm going to major in accounting. Which actually was funny because I remember my first semester, I like had to retake the class because I was literally trying to coast through a course that I did not understand. and did not get a satisfactory grade. So I actually retook that course my sophomore year. But I would get back to that question about, I guess this is cool because, like I said, floating through college, I picked a major that I think is going to be somewhat lucrative. And then I step into a career where I'm like, all right, like, I guess this is what adults do. Like, I get up, put on some oversized khakis, some hard bottoms that are super uncomfortable, an oversized shirt that I probably bought with graduation money. And I go to a desk job. I look at financial statements all day. I'm listening to Breakfast Club in the background. I'm like, all right, like, this is cool. I guess this is what the next 30 years look like for me. Get my first
Oh
check.
my God.
Yeah, exactly. Get my first check, probably go to PacSun, Urban Outfitters, one of those stores in Charlotte at the time, blow up what I think is a bag to like go out. And I'm like, all right, I guess this is cool. But like I said, as I got more into my career, I kind of did a internal audit and was like, all right, what do I actually want to do? But for that first job, or from that first transition from Catawba to my first job, I would phrase it as, I guess this is cool.
I like that. We're going to name the episode that. Let me ask you this, bro. And I was there for a piece of it.
Yeah.
You know, what was life like in finance, being young, making good money, and just living? What was life like for you at that time?
Yeah, that's a great question. I guess I would kind of start with how I got there. So as you mentioned, after Catawba, a lot of my teammates, including yourself, went on to have very successful careers playing overseas. Instead of actually trying to do that, I decided to kind of prolong my work career, and I went to grad school for the first time. Because like I said, I was basically coasting at Catawba just to kind of get by so that I could play on the basketball team. But when I went to grad school for the first time at Radford, that's when I had obviously more time to dedicate towards actually studying and understanding what it is that I should be knowing from a business standpoint. So I went to Radford to get my MBA, really applied myself there, was able to kind of network with a few people that I'm still super close with to this day. But at that point, I was trying to figure out exactly, it was almost like, I guess, like spin the wheel to see where I would land from a financial standpoint. Being from Roanoke, Charlotte's only about 3 hours away. So I wanted to kind of make a conscious decision to go somewhere that's far away, but close enough if I want to get in my car and pack up. So at that time, I was literally trying to get a job in the financial space. Had an undergrad in accounting with a decent GPA, I think like a 2.9 or something for Catawba. And then when I finished from Radford, I had like a 3.4. But at this point, I don't have any work experience because obviously I've been working. My work experience is Hall's Gym basketball camps from about the age of 18 to about the age of 24. Just strictly basketball camps and maybe like odd catering jobs with my uncle's catering business. And so at that point, I'll never forget my first job was at American Red Cross in Charlotte. No knock to them. I was definitely overqualified for the position, and it was some crazy ass title. It was like senior data analyst something, and I'll never forget the offer was 27,500. I had an MBA and an undergrad in accounting, and I was like, I tried to negotiate to like 28. They shut that down, and I was like, listen, I got to get.
They didn't want to give you $500 more.
I took that job I was so happy to get out of my parents' house. I took that job, sprinted down to Charlotte, was literally in that position for 2 months before I realized like I can't even live off of this because the way I was living back then, I couldn't afford to live on that type of paycheck. So I went to Monster, went to Indeed. I was actually able to find a better job with a consulting firm in DC. So I moved to DC like 2012, and that was like my first like foray into the financial space. I was making a crazy hourly rate as an independent consultant. We were getting a crazy stipend just to kind of eat out each and every day. So when I was working there, I was like, all right, this is like literally what I thought it would be like. Like I'm having these fancy happy hours, going to these expensive dinners, enjoying and entertaining with clients. And that actually was a short-lived career just because that actual project got cut short to about 6 months. So that's when I actually moved to Charlotte. But when I was working in that space, it's just like I thought that's what it was going to be. I thought it was going to be, like you said, young Black professional living in a metropolitan area, making a great living, going out when I want, being able to buy like the finer things, which I thought were the finer things at the time, and then applying what I learned in school to my career. So that's what I thought it was.
Man, and it's crazy because again, I was there for a piece of it,
Mm-hmm.
and even for me, I wasn't a young Black executive, but I had a little bit of cash, you know. So when I come home in the summer, I pull up to the crib. We just do what young people do,
Exactly.
you know, and it feels right until maybe it's not.
Exactly.
You did something unbelievable, and I have to really give you your props for it because it inspired me in such a way that I was just like, man, I'm not doing enough. You know,
Yeah.
I even started to question my playing career. Like, am I playing too long?
Yeah.
But I remember us having a conversation. You had a really cool place in the city in Charlotte. We were upstairs on the rooftop eating barbecue.
Hey, I
You
missed
know,
that.
had a
That was a good place. I missed that spot.
it was tough. The swimming pool was popping. Had a couple libations. It was a good time.
Yeah.
But I remember the conversation that we had. You were like, "Man, I think I'm about to get up out of here." And I was like, "What?" He was like, "Yeah, I'm just gonna pack up and move to New York and take another step." When you told me that, at first I was just like, "But you living good."
Yeah.
But there was something inside of you that was just like, "Nah, this isn't enough." What happened in that period?
Yeah. I think I was definitely super comfortable. I was making more money than I've ever made. Like I said, comfortable. Six figures coming from where I'm from. That's obviously a lot of money. Like I said, living in a luxury high rise that I literally walked by that place every day, and I'd be like, I'm going to live there at some point. And I was able to fortunate enough to live there for quite some time. So that was definitely something that I was look back on and say, damn, that was something that I was able to accomplish. But to your point about when did I have that light bulb moment, it was actually in 2018 when I believe the NBA All Star was in Charlotte. A good friend of mine, who's actually he lives in New York. I went to school with him at Radford. His name is Jeff Wallace. He was at Bleacher Report at the time. I'm sure he won't mind me telling this story. And I actually ran
Hmm.
into him at this. I want to say it was like a Nike mixer event that he was working, and I hadn't seen him since college, so it's probably been like 5 or 6 years at that point. And I'm like, yo, this is what you do for like a living. Like I didn't even understand what he did, but I know he's a producer, he's a creative, but he basically kind of helped put that event together and kind of capture some of the content. And I was fortunate enough to connect with someone else that invited me to this Jordan mixer. It was like I don't think it was Jordan Puma, but it was like Jordan and another brand at a mixer. And it's literally all of these sports executives, industry people, and they're all like just kind of not bragging, but they're so passionate and so happy to talk about their job. And when they get to me, they're like, yo, what do you do? I'm like, oh, I'm a consultant at this bank. They're like, do you like it? I'm like, no, it just pays the bills. And they're like, why do you do it? I'm like, I don't know. But like, I didn't say it
Did they
like that.
literally ask you, like,
They
did
were
they literally ask you, then why are you doing it?
exactly. And I didn't say, I don't
Wow.
know at that time, but I was like, I went to school for this, and I worked hard to get this certification. But internally, I was like, yeah, like, why am I doing something that I don't want to do? I don't have to do just because it's making decent money and I went to school for it. And so that's when I really had kind of like the light bulb moment, I'd say 2018. But right after that, I kid you not, that was a Saturday. That Monday, I literally wrote down probably 20 to 25 people that I connected with at that party. And then I branched off from that, built out a bigger list of people that were in the sports, media, entertainment industry that were making waves as an agent, marketing executives, brand partnerships, what have you. And I started to do some reverse engineering to say, hey, if they're in this position, how can I set up myself to get into that position? And that led to me journaling each and every day, just kind of what I was going through at work because I wasn't happy with my position. I felt like I could have been doing more. Again, I was making good or decent money, but I wasn't like, I was dreading getting out of bed every day. And I lived right across from the bank. Like I could walk there in 2 minutes. And I was probably
Mhm.
late a fraction of the time just because I didn't want to be there. I was trying to focus on my exit plan. And so when I was journaling, I turned that into a book. And when I was I guess announcing or promoting the book, people were like, "Have you ever thought about just like working in sports? Like obviously you're talking about your journey, but it sounds like you want to actually work in sports, but you're not sure exactly what that looks like." And so I would say the Bleacher Report event in Charlotte, and then actually writing the book and conversations with a mentor at the time who happened to be the COO of the Charlotte Hornets, Fred Whitfield, that literally changed my whole trajectory.
Wow. That's a really crazy spin.
Yeah.
And that question it was almost jarring to me.
Hmm.
When you were talking to these individuals at the mixer and they were just like, then why are you why are
Exactly.
you doing that? That's a I mean, it's very profound and it's deep. Like even if someone said that to me, I would be like,
Exactly. I was
uh You're right. I mean,
Right?
yeah, I'm going back to the hotel. I need to start this exit plan. Like, screw
Right.
this party, man. No, no, but I mean, so by the time that you and I had that conversation, you had probably already got got everything in motion,
Yeah.
because you said, listen, I'm doing it. Like, I'm going to New York. I'm going to try to get in college
Mhm.
again. And it was on from there. Let's pivot to this, man, and we'll continue to stay where we are right now. You get
Mhm.
into the marketing game. Is there some fear attached to it, just starting over, or do you have a safety net with school? Like, what's going through your head when you're actually packed up, you on the flight, or you taking your car or whatever, and you headed up north? Was there some fear attached to it?
Yeah. So I mean, I wish I could have. I wish I could have taken a flight at the time, but unfortunately, I had to live on my savings for a minute. So I actually took the train up from Roanoke to New York. I'll never forget the date. It was January 14th, 2020. It's probably like 48 degrees. And I remember my mom was in the passenger seat, literally crying like I was going to kindergarten. And she was like, my baby's going to New York with no job, going back to get another degree. What is he doing? And my dad's like, he'll figure it out. I think he literally, I'm going to New York, mind you. I think my dad gave me $10 and was like, first meal's on me. And I'll never forget that. And I had a slice of
Oh, I
pizza,
love it.
right? I had a slice of pizza. I think I probably had a grape soda, and like a brownie or like a cookie or something. And I was just like, all right, I'm here. Like now I gotta actually figure it out. And so that's when it was
Yeah.
kind of like a little scary, but it also made me hungry. So it made me want to step outside of my comfort zone. It made me attend literally every networking event you could go to. It made me start the podcast. It made me start the book publishing company, which actually led to me kind of starting this resource group at Columbia, or co-founding this resource group at Columbia that was geared towards the advancement of Black and Brown people within the sports industry, which led to my first hands-on marketing experience with a really big agency at the time. So it definitely wasn't an easy journey. And when I look back, I don't take anything for granted because everything happens for a reason. But I'll never forget getting off that train and then getting on the actual subway and being like, damn, what did I just do? And now I got to figure it out.
Yeah. When it's on, it's on.
Exactly.
At that point, it's like seeing USC Aiken walk in the gym, and you heard they got a dude on the team that did like a 2-year prison sentence. You're like, what? And he's averaging 25.
You got a
Oh my God.
whole family at home, didn't even ride to the game on the team bus, pulled up in an Escalade, tatted with skis before, tats were cool, iced out, all the gear, and you're like, yo, I just got out of Western religion class and I ate at Chartwell's and I'm about to guard this dude that's probably supposed to be in the NBA.
Oh man, and our future's dependent on it.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah. But just hearing you talk about the move, man, this is why I'm so happy our relationship has bloomed.
Mhm.
Even more so since we left college. Because when we hung out in college, it was really just that. Teammates spending time together. We did double dates back then. Here and there. Like, it was just,
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
always had a connection. But just conversing with you and seeing how you started to think, I really think that was like something that I wanted to be around,
Yeah.
because it was very inspiring, because you did take a risk and you weren't afraid, in a sense of preparing yourself for the next stage. So for me, being where I was just like, man, this is cool. Like, and I really, wanted to be a champion for you, because it was just like, yo, like, this is dope. But let me ask you this. What were some of the characteristics that you needed to be in the marketing, in the sports marketing space, in comparison to what was needed for finance? Because there is a networking aspect that needs to happen in finance. Of course, you need to know the books, you need to know how
Yeah.
to move around. But what were some of the characteristics that you needed for sports marketing that you had to learn on the fly?
Yeah. I think what I was able to leverage most from my time in the financial space, like I said, I was there for damn near 7 years, got like 2 certifications, but outside of that, being able to build, manage, and nurture relationships is something that you need to possess regardless of industry, whether that's connecting with financial analysts or talking to tax specialists or talking to people that look over internal controls on the finance side, to switching to the marketing side, to connecting with a CMO or a senior brand manager or someone that has control over the budget or has say so over the talent that's selected for a campaign. Being able to build, manage, nurture, and at the end of the day, create a way to kind of make it a mutually beneficial relationship or partnership. I think that that's what I've been able to kind of leverage. And then I guess just outside of that, just the person that I am, I'm really good at just like finding common ground. Like I'm into a lot of different things. I'm probably like not your average, I guess, former athlete. Like obviously I love sports, but I like to read, I like to write, I like to travel. I like to watch a variety of TV shows. I listen to a variety of music. I like different types of food. So being able to kind of find that common ground, I feel like that's the best way to establish that relationship. And then that will ultimately yield to deeper conversations where you can hopefully turn something into business, which is good for all parties involved.
Yeah, so tell me about the networking aspect. Even for a person like me, I was a person who I like to think I have a good personality. I have that Southern comfort thing. I can say hello to anyone, right?
Yeah.
But that doesn't always translate to business or partnerships or following up with people.
Yeah.
What were some of the key aspects that you learned in the networking role? Meeting people and actually turning that meeting or that initial interaction into business.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny because I was having this conversation with someone that reached out to me on LinkedIn earlier this month, and I was almost saying I feel like a translator for most of my career, being able to kind of like listen to someone, interpret their message, and then turn it into something which I feel would be an actionable item, whether that's a follow up conversation, whether that's another discussion with their hiring manager, or maybe it's them connecting me with someone else. But being able to kind of translate their message, and I feel like that goes back to my earlier days. Honestly, just being the only person that kind of looks like me in the classroom on the team for a chunk of my life, trying to figure out a way to not even fit in, but to kind of stand out, being comfortable in those rooms where, like I said, it's only me, it's only someone that looks like me in those rooms or in those spaces. And then as I got to college, being around people that look like me, but also still just being comfortable being myself and being able to just authentically and naturally relate to them. I feel like sometimes people they're not comfortable in those spaces, and they can kind of talk the talk, but they're not able to walk the walk. I feel like that is what allowed me to kind of get into the marketing space and kind of make a name for myself. Obviously, I'm still kind of years and steps away from where I would like to be, but I feel like I'm definitely making a concerted effort to kind of walk closer towards my North Star. But at the end of the day, I would definitely say just being able to kind of connect with people authentically is something that I've been good at since I was probably like 5 or 6 years old. Like if you know me, I'm super sarcastic, dry humor, but if you've hung out with me or had a conversation, you definitely have a story of going out with Layden or going out with Zill or Catawba days, Radford nights, Charlotte nights, all that good stuff. But like I said, at the end of the day, I'm always going to be on point. I'm always going to be able to kind of be a resource for someone.
Going back to Catawba Layden, all I'm going to say to you is Blue Powerade.
If you know, you know. That's all I'm going to say. If you know,
Blue Powerade.
Shout out
That's
Blue Powerade, Lacrosse House, and shout out to my boy Jeezy. I know he'll be listening to this, and he got a phone call that night, so that's all I'm going to say. All good.
oh my God. Yeah, man. Oh, that's funny. Let me ask you this, man. Like your progression into the sports marketing scene and just kind of moving and shaking has been a pleasure to see. Have there been any mentors that has showed you the ropes, or have you kind of used that adaptability to the things around you to find success, or has it been a little bit of both?
Yeah, for sure. I would definitely say in terms of mentors or people that have kind of, I like the phrase, sent the elevator back down. For sure, Fred Whitfield, who those who don't know, that's literally Michael Jordan's right-hand man. So when I was at Wells Fargo, when I was down in Charlotte, I had told my skip level manager at the time that I had aspirations of working in sports. And she actually had aspirations of working in sports as well. She was the first time I ever had senior leadership over me as someone that looked like me. So we kind of hit it off the bat immediately. And she was like, you should connect with Fred. He actually started where you were, which was, I was an internal auditor at the time. He had just got his CIA. I just got my CIA. And I think he was a counselor at the Campbell camp. And him and Michael Jordan actually hit it off. And he said, I want you to be my agent or like my marketing lead. And so at that time, he actually went back to law school to become Michael Jordan's agent. I think he was around the age of probably 26, 27. And at that time, I was like 29.
Wow.
30. Yeah. So I was literally like, all right, he started out in audit, and then he was able to go back to school and pivot to something that he was super passionate about. So that was like the first instance. I would say outside of him, for sure, there's an individual. She might listen to the pod. I know she's listened to a few of them. Her name is Naila. She's at an agency in the industry as well. She was one of the first people I reached out to on LinkedIn that literally just took 15 minutes just to kind of share what her day-to-day experience was. She was actually very instrumental in helping me get my first internship. I would say her. I would also say Andrew Hawkins, who's a Columbia alum. I connected with a former NFL player. He's a big-time entrepreneur, NFL analyst now. He took a call with me in 2018, actually, when I was on the fence about even going to an information session at Columbia. And then outside of that, I would say Len Elmore, who's obviously the great NBA former player. He served as a guiding light throughout my time at Columbia in terms of starting the BSMU, the Black Sports Management Union, and just being a leader of how to kind of carry yourself in the business and kind of showing me where the landmines are and showing me how to kind of navigate. So I'd say those four specifically. And then also Tom Richardson, who I'm actually his course associate now for a digital sports marketing class. Tom went above and beyond. It was always there to lend a helping hand to say, hey, Layden, have you looked at this opportunity? Hey, Layden, are you going to this networking event? Hey, Layden, have you thought about being more active on LinkedIn, being more vocal? So I'd say those five for sure helped kind of the person you see today.
Yeah, and I'm gonna build on that LinkedIn topic that you just brought up, because it's important for people that's trying to move through this professional world and just build a community, if you will.
For sure.
You moved to New York in 2020, and you had these big dreams and aspirations. You know what I'm about to ask you. What was going on in your mind when you moved to New York and the world shut down?
It's crazy the way that happened, because mind you, again, when I moved to New York, I quit my job, so I got to be a little more frugal, got a penny pitch here and there because I'm trying to figure out how I'm going to live until I get like my next check or whatever. And so at the time, I was just relaxing. I was literally just focusing on school, literally taking the train to Columbia. I guess that's like uptown from Bushwick, which is Brooklyn. For those that don't know, that's about an hour on the train each day just to like try to take 2 or 3 classes. And so I wasn't even going out at the time. One, I only know 2 or 3 people. And then 2, like I just didn't have the funds to do it. But my birthday happened to be on March 9th. That was the first time I ever went out, like actually went out in New York. And I'll never forget, I had the time of my life. I had a good time. We bar hopped. We went to a really nice restaurant. Get back home. I wake up March 10th. My phone is going crazy. My mom's like, hey, are you okay? My dad's like, go buy you a mask. Everyone's like, the world's shutting down. I'm like, yo, what's going on? I cut on my news and literally everything is shut down. Like everything is shut down. The 3 people that I know, 2 of them move out from the city. My roommate, I had 2 at the time. One of the guys, he moves back to LA immediately. So now we're trying to like figure out how we're going to allocate rent or whatever. And at that point I was like, all right, 2020 is not a good year because obviously Kobe had passed earlier in January. Now we got the whole COVID thing. And so I'm literally questioning, like, why did I do this? And can I still have my job at the bank? That was my first thought. I'm not even joking, because I was like,
of course.
I could probably call my manager up. I mean, I left on decent terms, was doing a decent job, but I could always kind of finesse my way back in. But then I was like, nah, I'm built different. So that's when like I said, I really hit the ground and was like, all right, you gotta figure out how to make some things shake while you're here, because you had all these dreams and aspirations. Just because this has happened and we don't know when it's going to end, you can still make some things happen. So, but first, I mean, I would be lying if I didn't say I wasn't scared or like anxious when I literally turned on my news and see that the world is shutting down. So
right after you picked up and went completely to another different lane in life.
Exactly.
invested money, time, resources, and then boom, it just
Exactly.
hits you.
Of course.
Yeah, while you were talking about it, I was just thinking like, dang, man, like what's going through this guy's head? I think I might even hit you up like, bro, you straight? Like they're showing bodies outside of buildings and stuff. It was crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, for me, man, it's like I said, what you did was it was so cool to see, man. It was so cool to see, and it really, I think it even added admiration
Mhm.
to our relationship, and I think any good friendship there should be a little bit of that. It should be
Yeah.
respect. It should be admiration. It should be encouragement. It should be all of these different things.
Mhm.
But you you were faced with a challenge and you hit it head on. Where does that come from? So did your parents instill that into you? I know through sports we receive these types of things, especially if you do it well.
Yeah.
You're gonna be tough. You know what I mean? You're gonna understand what um, characteristics you need to make things happen, even in the face of adversity. What does that come from for you?
Yeah, I think that was probably just the way my parents, just the upbringing, honestly, just being resilient and just always trying to figure out a way or an angle to just like make things happen. So I always look at things like this isn't going to happen. This isn't going to happen. It's almost like the opposite of how can I make this happen, or how can I figure out a solution to like bring this to life. So I think that at a young age, like I said, obviously leaning on sports, basketball, football, and even baseball for a little bit as an outlet to kind of like express myself and have an identity, and then realizing that like, hey, as I got older, there's more to life than sports. There's jobs out here. There's careers. There's spending time with family. There's travel. There's building legacy. All that good stuff. But at the end of the day, you're gonna have your obstacles. You're gonna have your bumps in the road. But you got to be resilient. You got to be able to get back up. Like I said, I remember when I was a freshman on the basketball team, I'd only started because the guy in front of me at the time, I think he had like flunked out or something. And I remember my first game, I probably airball like 3 shots, probably had like 8 turnovers or something crazy. But then my dad was like, yo, you have 30 games this season. It's one game. Don't worry about it. So then I came back the next game, had a better showing. We weren't a good team that year. I think we were like 10-20 or something. But then my sophomore year, all the seniors left. We stayed in the gym really long that summer. And I'll never forget that we were like, I think 18-15. But then my junior and senior year, we were like one of the best teams in the state. And that was just from bouncing back and listening to the naysayers saying, hey, it's a small town school. They don't really have the size or the height. But like I said, we were all kind of on the same page. And I think that resiliency of just being able to bounce back during difficult times. And then, too, just honestly, just not taking everything so serious. Like, if you really know me, like
Okay.
if you've been out with me, if you had a conversation, been in a group chat, you can be like, yo, Layden is hilarious. Like, he likes to have a good time. He's super sarcastic. He's funny. He's this. Because, like I said, at the end of the day, most things are not life or death. And they're always figure outable, which is a term I probably made up and my dad always says. So just going about things that way, being resilient and not taking yourself too serious. So I think those are the two keys to life.
Yeah, yeah, you are a funny dude, and the crazy thing is, like, you you you're not loud about it. You just speak in the same tone and say some stuff, and I'll be like, well, this dude is this dude is nuts. Uh, yeah. So you made a reference to LinkedIn, and the beautiful thing about this podcast is it's allowing me to talk to people who are very successful, and this podcast, I will say, has been very helpful, not only for me to learn how to navigate in this space, but also to meet some really cool people.
Yep.
Like by doing this podcast, I've really been able to talk with some really, really cool, interesting, um, enterprising, thoughtful people. And I transitioned from professional basketball last year, and I need to know some of these things that you were talking about, such as LinkedIn.
Mhm.
How can someone be successful on LinkedIn? How can you build a following or a support base or a community on LinkedIn? Like, what do you have some tips for
Yeah,
those of us
yeah,
who
for
need
sure.
that?
I think the first thing is just spending some time with it, as all things in life, whether that's sports, whether that's photography, whether that's choreography. I think just spending some time with it and kind of understanding what the platform is all about, how it can be a resource, and how it can be a value add. I feel like in the last 2 to 3 years, LinkedIn has kind of shifted to more of like the Facebook style where it's, I mean, it is what it is. It's a lot of sob stories. It's a lot of self promoting, a lot of bragging. But underneath all of that,
Mm-hmm.
there are some resources. There's a lot of networking. There's a lot of people in there that can kind of be in your corner. So I think that how I went about the approach was because I was uncomfortable on LinkedIn. I was like, all right, I work in finance. What am I actually going to talk about? Like a financial report that made a deliverable due date? Like no one cares about that. But when I got into like the certification stage, when I got my first certification, I started posting articles that were relevant to people that had their certified internal auditor or people that were studying for like another thing. I saw that it was starting to get traction, but at the same time, I was like, all right, I'm just using this honestly to get another job. Like that's what I was using LinkedIn for at the time. And then as I got older,
Which most people do.
exactly,
Mm-hmm.
as I got older and got into the marketing space, I was like, all right, I'm going to use this platform just to not always highlight my work, but to more or less kind of showcase the value and the resources and some of the projects that I've been able to work on. And maybe that sparks an idea. Maybe it sparks or serves as inspiration for someone else looking to kind of make that journey. But I think just being more active. And then again, another cliche saying, shout out to Ron Williams, is realizing that you're never as good as you think you are, and you're never as bad as they say you are. So if you go on LinkedIn and you don't get a lot of engagement, hey, I mean, I'm pretty sure everyone didn't start out with like 2,000 likes or 200 comments. So as you continue to perfect your craft, you'll get better at it.
Well, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen, and Rob. Yeah.
Free game.
Yeah. Free game.
For sure.
All right.
There you go.
Yeah. I mean, thank you for that. And again, that's why it's great to have a really diverse network.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what you're doing. I'm telling you, man. Like of course, I'm in transition. Going from sports to what I'm doing right now.
Yeah.
But you've taken all of the correct steps and even more, even with missteps, because we all have missteps. But you've taken the correct steps. So for you to offer that free game, I know not only myself can use that, but others as well.
For sure.
Yeah. So I want to pivot here, man, and we're actually going into your work.
Yep.
So you work around a lot of professionals,
Mm-hmm.
who are in sports and entertainment. You're moving and shaking. You're going to this event, that event. What would someone who's not in your field need to be able to get into the sports marketing field and be successful? Because you were that person. You were coming over from finance and you had to move over to sports marketing. What does someone need after your experiences to be able to transition over and be successful?
It's funny because I was literally asking myself this same question at my desk in 2018 in Charlotte. I was like, all right, I see this guy's here. How can I get to where he is at and beyond? And I think that honestly, just working, I know this is cliche, working hard, putting yourself out there, and then being able to kind of build what I say is a social blueprint or a social footprint, not a blueprint, a social footprint to say, hey, I've worked on X, Y, and Z projects. These are the results. This is why it's relevant to what you're trying to build, and here's how I can be a resource. I also realized that like no task is too small. When I say I was literally looking under every rock for an opportunity just to get some type of hands-on experience outside of writing a book, that allowed me to show people, hey, he's serious about this. Like I was volunteering for a Slack community that was geared towards people that wanted to work in player development. I was volunteering for like different hockey initiatives in New York just to kind of showcase, hey, like they're doing surveys, which ties into some type of marketing because they're trying to get a younger and diverse crowd. I was attending, like I said, every event at Columbia. I was having coffee chats with all of my professors, anyone that had a position of interest that finished from the program. I was connecting with them on LinkedIn, asking for 15 minutes. I made a targeted approach to my podcast back in the day. Every person that I had on there, I felt like they could be, they could champion my work or they could somewhat consult on kind of what I should do from like a next perspective. But I feel like at the end of the day, you got to kind of roll your sleeves up. And if you want it, you want it. And if you don't, you don't. Because like I said, I hate to belabor the point, like walking away from a comfortable job to go to an unpaid internship in a city right 2 months before pandemic, like that's not to be taken lightly. So I don't take my position now for granted or anything that I'm able to do with Lyft, the sports agency I'm with now, or any other places that I've been, because I realized like it was a struggle to get here, and I'm going to be here for a while.
That's what I'm talking about. Yeah, those steps that we all take in this, man, throughout this journey in life. I think taking the long way
Mm-hmm.
might be the best thing for us
Right.
because there's longevity there.
Yep.
You know, I think had this fell into your lap, do you think you would have appreciated it in the same way?
Nah.
Has someone just given you a job at the agency that you're in right now?
Yeah. Like if somebody was like, let's say I went to the Bleacher Report event in 2018. I'm working as a compliance consultant, and they're like, "Hey, if you quit your job in 2 weeks, I'll make you a marketing agent working directly with NBA and WNBA athletes." I would be like, "Okay, this is cool." I mean, obviously, I would have no idea what that truly entails, but
Right.
I wouldn't cherish it like I do, because, like I said, I worked pretty hard to get to this spot, which a lot of the stuff people don't see. I mean, I don't broadcast or try to come off as super flashy across social media. I'm literally just like showcasing some of the events and some of the clients that I work with. But I do realize that like you don't see all the work that went into that. Like I said, when I first moved here and I'm eating pizza every night and I'm living with two guys that I don't know just so that I can afford to stay in New York City. I'm taking the train literally everywhere or walking. Like those are the two options. Like Uber and Lyft, yeah, those are apps, but like I'm not even using those. Like it's train or feet, nothing else. Trying to kind
Yeah.
of again reinvent myself to say, hey, like, yes, I'm a finance professional. Yes, I have this certification, but I actually want to work in marketing. That's like the stuff that like you don't see, like the long hours of editing a podcast, trying to book talent, trying to upload the podcast. Like that was, I mean, obviously you're doing that now, and that's no easy
Yeah.
task for anyone that's ever done it. But that's a lot of the stuff that like you don't see because you don't broadcast the struggle because one, no one cares. People are just glad it's not them. But I feel
Hmm.
like that's what's allowed me to kind of have that resilient, I can do anything type of attitude.
Have you pinched yourself yet?
It's
Was there ever a moment where you were in you were doing something or somewhere or having dinner with someone or having a conversation and you just thought to yourself, what the hell is this?
Yeah, two times. One actually was recent. The first time, so anyone that knows me, I'm a huge Nipsey fan. Obviously, you can see him in the background here. When I was at one of
Yeah.
my agencies, we did a really big project for Snowfall season 5, and the partnership we did was with David Gross, who's actually one of Nipsey's best friends. And I've been following
Hmm.
his career for a while, and I know that he had just opened Vector 90. For those that don't know, Vector 90 is like a urban WeWork for young aspiring entrepreneurs from underserved communities. And so to
Hmm.
help promote the show, which is obviously about the rise and fall of a street pharmacist, if you will, we had to put a positive spin
Yeah.
on it. So I was able to connect the dots with a few people that I knew in LA, and was able to actually have the event with the help of my team at his actual venue. And when I got there, I had literally been reading about this dude for 5 or 6 years. And he was like, "Yo, do you want to go to John and Vinny's? Like, let's go get pasta. Let's go do this." And I'm literally like, "Yo, I was reading about you 5 or 6 years ago. And now I'm literally having like pasta and drinks with you. Like, this is like legit crazy." And I remember I was like, "Damn, like this is what I worked hard for." That for sure. And then I think another one at a former agency that I was with. I'm gonna use three. A former agency I was with, I had the opportunity to work with Drewski. And this is when Drewski was on the up and up of kind of who he is today, but he wasn't
Hmm.
like at the star power where he's at every brand. And I remember I was like, it would be super cool if we were able to kind of bring in him as talent and have him kind of spearhead this particular activation. And then I remember once I got to meet him and once the actual commercial or ad ran, just kind of knowing what that looked like, I was like, damn, this is cool. And then the third one,
Yeah.
this is just something I've always wanted to do because I've seen it and I think it looks cool. I was able to sit courtside at a recent game just because we have two clients on the team. And I mean,
Yeah.
that was, I'm not gonna lie, that was cool. Like I remember at halftime, I literally went to the bathroom, called my dad. I was like, yo, is the Magic Nets game on? I was like, yo, look under the goal. I'm sitting right here. He's like, no, you not. He's like, you watching in your living room. I'm like, nah. I was like, nah, I'm at the game. So shout out to my to our CEO and to my manager who actually looked out, who's also been a really good mentor for the past year. So I was able to kind of make that happen. But I legit pinched myself those 3 times. I was like, yo, this is not happening. And to that point, like I said, I don't take it for granted because I know it can be taken away as soon as tomorrow, and everything happens for a reason. But I definitely remember those 3 instances for sure. And I was like, damn, I cannot believe I'm actually like doing this.
Yeah, that's funny, man. That you call pops like
Yeah,
at halftime, like
yeah,
this is really happening.
exactly,
Like,
exactly.
like
Turn your,
I'm really here.
turn your TV on, turn the DVR on, whatever you got to do. So
Did you fan out and take a bunch of pictures?
I didn't like fan out, but I definitely did the scan to my feet, scan to the court, just because I mean, if you don't record it, it didn't happen. And who hasn't listened to the Jay-Z bar where he said, "So close I could trip a referee"? And I was like, "Damn, this is like, this is what it means." So I mean, but I enjoyed it. Obviously, got to cheer on our clients as well, so that was super cool. But for sure, was pinching myself the whole time, making sure that I didn't stumble on the way to my seat, didn't spill anything, you know. But it was a good
Yeah,
time.
yeah, yeah.
It was a good time.
That's dope. So let me ask you this, man. We pivoting. We actually towards the end of our chat, man.
Mhm.
You you've been in the basketball space for all of your life,
Yep.
essentially, in one way or another.
Mhm.
You played for a long time. You had a great career. Um, you stopped playing. Now you're back around basketball players. Now, how do you mesh into that space now? How do you mesh as a former athlete or former basketball player into this huge market? Does anything that we learn from Catawba apply
For
to
sure.
what's happening in the league? How does that work for you?
Yeah, for sure. So I guess in full transparency, like I said, my day to day is a senior manager on the marketing team at Lift Sports Management, the number one basketball agency in all the land. But
Hello.
I guess to that point, it's just being able to find unique partnership opportunities that resonate with our clients and align with their interests and passions off the court. I think what I'm able to leverage from my days as an athlete is just being able to relate to them. At the end of the day, like if they just want to talk hoops, if they want to play NBA 2K on PS5 or Call of Duty on Xbox, I mean, that's what we did while I was at Catawba. So, I mean, I walk into a room where
Yeah. Shout out to the Wilson crew.
exactly, exactly. Hey, I was not the best, but I held it down those freshman and sophomore years for sure. But I think it's being able to relate. Like I said, we probably listen. Obviously, there's a gap in the age, but we're probably listening to the same type of music. I'm from a small town, so we're probably raised on the same type of foods. You know, honey buns, ramen, Capri Suns, all the unhealthy stuff that the kids like to eat. Like we can kind of joke around
Hmm.
about stuff like that. But at the end of the day, being able to talk hoops. But as I said earlier in the conversation, I think what allows me to separate myself from other people is being able to translate. Because, like I said, I know how to talk to a brand. I know how to talk to somebody that's worked in finance, but I also know how to relate to an athlete. Some people, they're either 2 out of 3 or 1 out of 3. I'm able to kind of, like I said, stroke the ego of a client or be able to kind of connect with them. And obviously, like I said, make sure that we're maximizing their value off the court. But also, like I said, I can put on that hat to talk to a brand because I worked on the brand side and say, hey, this is how they go about building their talent. This is what they're looking like from a budget perspective. And then, like I said, more importantly, being able to kind of talk the finance talk as well. So when they give you that budget and you're trying to negotiate a higher fee, being able to kind of pull all those pieces together, I think that's what's allowed me to kind of um, excel within this space in like the last, I guess, 3 or 4 years.
Okay, and we're gonna stick with the professional basketball player, right? Because you and I, we've had this conversation before on a number of occasions, right?
Mhm.
And for me, of course, I'm not serving as a professional athlete, but I was that for a while, and I've seen a lot.
Yeah,
All right, in terms of professionalism, in terms of accountability, in terms of performance, I've seen a lot.
yeah.
Let me ask you this, and you may have a different view, or you may have a similar view, but what's the difference between a pro athlete and someone who's just exceptionally talented
Hmm.
at a sport? Because there is a difference, and a lot of people, especially some of the pros that I talk to,
Yeah.
the young guys who want to play overseas or go to the NBA, I think they get it twisted about the two. What's the difference between that, in your opinion?
I think it's probably 3 things. And I think the third is something that you actually probably taught me when I had you on my podcast. I think the first two is attention to detail, definitely being able to kind of obviously dot your I's and cross your T's, but because everyone's going to be athletic. If you're a pro, You probably average 20 in college. You probably average 30 in high school. You can jump out the gym. You can set up guys on the break. You can be a lockdown defender, but you got to be able to pay attention to details. Because, like I said, if everyone's like that on the team, then someone's got to play defense. Someone's got to rebound. So being able to kind of adapt, but also paying attention to detail, making sure that you're doing the little things right. You're showing up to film. You're shaking hands with the owner. You're showing up early for a weight session, stuff like that. Because stuff like that will, get you kicked off the team. You know the phrase over a piece of bread, over a piece of bread, over a piece of bread.
Oh,
Playing overseas.
Coach Led, man, Coach Led.
Exactly. The second thing I would say is just mindset. I feel like, to your point, obviously everyone wants to play at the highest level possible, but everyone doesn't have that drive, that determination, and then that dedication, and also that discipline to really lock in and kind of take their game to the next level. So, say attention to detail, mindset, and then third, just being a pro. I remember when you were on my podcast, you were talking about just like what it means to actually be a pro. And that's like you said, fulfilling those obligations. It's doing things you don't necessarily want to do all the time, but realizing like that's what it means to be a pro in that profession. Whether that's getting 200 shots up after a game, doing a weightlifting session after you've already had workouts, or just trying to connect with your teammates to kind of see what makes sense. I think attention to detail, having the right mindset, and just being a pro, being someone that you want to be around at the end of the day is probably going to allow you to have a successful playing career.
Yeah, and I'm happy that you went through those key points, because I've had this conversation before, and I've seen some really, really, really good basketball players, man. I've seen some really good players, and then I hear a narrative that they put out themselves. They just talking to people, and they say, "Man, they give me a shot. They gave this guy a shot," but I'm just like, listen, what's your value proposition?
Yeah.
Are you just bringing hoops? Because if you just bring in that, then you have about 6 or 7 years, and if you never reach a prime, you won't even get to the 7th season.
Yeah.
Um, if you are a professional, then you can extend your career as long as you want. Maybe you not the star the whole time, but they'll give you a shot because you're easy to work with. You're a good person to be around, and you take care of your business.
For sure.
So a lot of players, yeah, and I'm sure that you encountered this, especially on the sports marketing side.
Mm-hmm.
You may have something set up, someone doesn't show up on time, et cetera, et cetera. You could probably go through a long list of things, but it matters, and it also matters, especially in the back end when you're on the decline.
Mm-hmm.
They get you out of there a lot faster if you haven't been a good pro.
Of course, those facts for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, man. So listen, we at the back end of the episode, man, and yeah, this has been a great conversation. Let me ask you this, man. Just what's next?
That is a great question. I actually have that written on my mirror. I would walk in there, but I think it's like on my bathroom mirror. I literally say, "What's next?" and under it says "the world." And I mean, that sounds funny. It sounds cliche, but that honestly is a motivating factor. When people are like, "What would be your dream job?" I'm literally in my dream job. Like I said, I service WNBA, NBA, NCAA, NIL athletes. So I think what's next is obviously continuing to build Lift Sports Management, making sure that we, again, kind of build these unique partnership opportunities for our roster of athletes. And then just kind of advancing throughout my career. I mean, one of my long-term goals is to be a CMO. So I want to be an actual executive that has say so in power in terms of kind of how things go. But that's just like probably like my 5 to 7 year plan. Outside of that, definitely working on another book. Would like to do a short film. Spending more time with the family. I got to tighten up on my golf game. My pops is really nice on the 18 holes with the sticks, so I gotta tighten that up.
OG still wiping y'all up, man.
Hey, we don't even keep score when we play. I'll be like, hey, I'll take you to putt because that's what I can beat him at. But definitely spending time with family, traveling. But like I said, what's next? The world.
That's what I'm talking about, man. I love it. So listen, Layden, on the show, and you watched a couple episodes over this time span.
Yeah.
Manifestation is big.
Of course.
So not only are we using manifestation to put this information out there in the world, we also using it here on the show. So when you accomplish everything that you said right here, you'll always be able to come back to the show and use it as a reference point to say, listen, I told y'all
I like that.
in 2023
I like that.
that I was going to get it popping. All right. So let me ask you this. What is the perfect scenario for you that could be personal, professional, or both? You take it wherever you want to go.
Okay. I'll start with professionally. I think the goal, I always joke around myself, is to never be cold. So I would like to be bi-coastal. I would like to work in New York, have a nice spot here, and then, like I said, when it gets cold, either live in LA or live in Miami somewhere, have like a nice condo, penthouse, something like that. I mean, like I said, this is being super aspirational. And again, just from a personal aspect, at this point, hopefully, like I said, in the next 4 to 5 years, possibly be settled down with someone that I call like my partner. Maybe we start a family. So I think that would be something I would like to put out there from like a personal perspective. And then from
Yeah.
professionally, like I said, just continue to climb the ladder. Like I said, I would like to be the face of marketing for our agency and continue to take steps to become a CMO. Like I said, when I learned what a CMO was back in 2018, I was like, all right, I'm going to be there someday. I'm not there yet, but damn it, I'm close, and I'm making steps towards, like I said, my North Star. And then I guess just like outside of that, again, just spending more time with my parents, with my family. Obviously, they're getting up there in age, so never take that for granted. But that's kind of where my mindset is. So like I said, in 2028, when we still got the pod, I'm going to be like, yo, 2023, November 18th, 12:38, I said I'm going to be a CMO, and I'm going to be taking that call from LA.
Hello. And I was on Malibu.
There you
know
go.
What I'm saying, one of them high rise joints, right over overlooking the water. Yeah,
exactly. Never cold. That's the goal.
That's what I'm talking about. Well, listen, man. Before we start the wrap up, I just want to say I appreciate you, man. Like I really appreciate you. You've given me a ton of examples to not second guess myself, to take those risks, to trust in the process, and to just monitor each step and be detailed. I'm learning all of this stuff from you externally. Also, your friendship is something that I appreciate. And, like I said, man, I think I might have said it on your podcast when we did it. Even your family, the beautiful thing about Catawba is we really had a family atmosphere, and just meeting your parents along the way, and my parents and everybody's parents just kind of hitting it off. It was a very special time.
For sure.
And just to hear you talk about your parents, man, is great. And I hope they're doing well, and I'm sure they're going to be checking in. So listen, hey, I'm thinking about you guys. Yeah. So I wanted to get that. And also D Will. So the Williams imprint is definitely all over the podcast.
For sure.
Yeah, it's definitely all over the podcast.
Exactly. You gotta drop that merch soon, Rob. But I was gonna say I'd be remiss if I didn't give you your flowers as well. Because like I said, I've known you from the time I was 18 to now, and to see your journey as a star shooting guard, James Harden before James Harden, Jalen Rose. What other left-hand assassin do I want to put out there? Nick Van Exel.
Manu, six man. Yeah.
We don't champion Spurs here. No, I'm just joking. But because you got to beat my Lakers back in the day. But yeah, Rob was that left-handed assassin before the Euros, before all that stuff. But to see his journey to become a family man, to a pro for well over 12 seasons, to a young entrepreneur in the content space, creating content, connecting with sports individuals, like entrepreneurs, media executives. It's definitely been cool to kind of see that transition as well. And like you said, for like some people in your life, they're there for seasons, and some people are there for reasons. It's you, Antonio, like I said, Damo, a few people that I still rock with from high school that I still like count on like one hand. It's like my boys to this day, and just continue to kind of keep those conversations to keep that relationship going.
No doubt. So listen, man, a lot of people are going to want to get in touch with you after this episode to get some of those wisdoms, some of those L. wisdoms. Yeah. before we get out of here, man, give us just if you want to, give the people your socials.
I got you.
And then we'll check out.
Okay, cool. Socials, yeah. LinkedIn, obviously, Layden Williams, Layden Williams. Pretty active on there. Also, you can hit me up on Instagram, obviously Layden Will. So it's just LaydnWill. Still on Twitter, not as much, but again, that's also Layden Will. The only difference there is an underscore. Outside of that, like I said, just kind of shoot your shot. If you're in the city, if you're at one of these sporting events, I'm always mindful of taking the time because I know what it's like to be on the outside and trying to get in. So I'm always willing to kind of, I think the phrase is lift as we climb, but also just being able to kind of be a resource for the next generation of people looking to break into the sports industry. And thanks again for having me on the pod. You let me off with no basketball related questions, which I was kind of hoping I got at least one, but this is a blast.
Yeah, we can save that for another one. Yeah, okay. I don't want to talk your head off about the hoop stuff. We can save that for another one.
All good.
Maybe a round table discussion. That would be fun.
For sure.
Yeah, my next trip to the States, man, I'm gonna have my podcast equipment with me. So
say what?
See, I'm packing more podcast stuff and less sneakers. So that lets you know I'm going crazy about this stuff, man.
There you go. I love that.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. But ladies and gentlemen, there you have it. Layden Williams has graced us with his presence on this show. And like I said, his imprint, has been all over the show. He's been helping me out a lot. Go follow him. If you have any marketing questions, you better come correct. Don't send no mess. All right. Don't waste his time. All right. Don't say Rob sent me and you ask him a stupid question. All right. But ladies and gentlemen, you know how we do. You know how we give it up when we in the show. It costs nothing to be good to someone. Be good to someone today. I'm your host, Rob Fields. He's Layden Williams. And we'll catch you on the next one.
Peace. Appreciate you.
Peace.